arts school. But if you like business okay and you're willing to deal with the business side of things in order to make a little bit of profit on your school, this is the part you need to look at first. Sit down and think about your school. How much money do you think you'll make per student? How much rent are you willing to pay? Is there a lot of overhead involved? Is it even feasible for you to afford to open this business after you add up the expenses that will be involved? It's important to be realistic. Could you teach a class if you don't have the right type of mats? What if you have to move from one space to another space each week? Depending on where you're located and what types of resources are available to you, you may have to adjust your expectations. Create a hypothetical situation just to see how it actually works out on paper. Begin by guessing at how much you'll have to pay in rent for a suitable space for your martial arts school. Then guess how many students you might be able to get in the community where you intend to teach class. Be conservative. Next, think about how much you would like to charge per student. Multiply your conservative guess about the number of students with the amount you intend to charge per student. Is it more than the amount you expect to pay in rent? Now, subtract your hypothetical rent from the total amount of money you expect to make off of students. This money represents profits, but you haven't paid for mats, insurance, or any other items for your martial arts school yet. Before we consider the overhead involved in your martial arts school, simply take the number that you got from subtracting the rent from your gross profits and divide it by the number of hours you expect to be spending teaching, marketing, doing bookkeeping, answering the phone inquiries about your school, developing a curriculum, and cleaning. Is it an acceptable amount of money to you? Perhaps you love martial arts and you don't care about making only $3 per hour, but you need to be realistic if you came up with a number at the end of your calculations that equals less than you're willing to work for. Perhaps you need to consider setting up a martial arts school in a populated location nearby if you believe that you won't be able to get enough students to justify teaching classes in the location you originally had in mind. Just because the numbers don't add up the way you want them to doesn't mean that you won't be shocked with more students than you could have imagined. Perhaps you'll find a remarkably cheap or a free place to use for your classes. This changes your hourly rate of pay as well, but remember, you're still going to need to buy props and teaching aids for your martial arts school, and these things will take money off your bottom line. On the flip side, if the numbers that you are crunching in your hypothetical scenario are above and beyond what you normally get paid, don't get too excited. You still need to buy props like punching bags or dummies for your school. There are almost always essentials that you need to have in order to conduct a quality class. Though some martial arts like Tai Chi don't require a lot of extra stuff to effectively teach a class, you may still want your students to wear special uniforms. That means that you'll have to be able to either cover the cost for the uniforms up front or order the uniforms after students have paid the fee. Basically, you'll need to be able to see that you can pay rent easily for space to teach your class. You need to be comfortable with the amount of money you expect to be making when your projections are conservative. And you need to be able to see how you could afford buying the necessary props and materials that you'll need to teach your classes off of the profits that you'll be making from the students. Remember, you'll need to pay for marketing for your school in order for it to be successful, and if you don't have much money to work with in the paradigm that you added up, then you may not be able to make a martial arts school work at the location where you originally planned to have one. Remember, at this stage, you're working strictly with projections. The amount of money it costs to rent in your area may be much more or much less than you're expecting.